Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're navigating some pretty delicate territory.
Yeah, definitely.
We're looking at potential signs, indicators of infidelity in a committed relationship.
Right.
And we've got insights here from Psych Central, Prevention, BetterHelp, Insight Investigations, quite a range.
Good sources.
Our goal here isn't to set off alarm bells everywhere, but more to just understand what these experts are observing to get clearer on what they suggest might be signs.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's really crucial right at the start to stress what all these sources say. These are potential indicators. They are not definitive proof.
Right, that proof.
Human behavior is, well, it's complex. So many things can cause changes in a relationship.
Totally.
So we'll just explore the patterns, the observations highlighted by professionals.
Yeah.
Impartially. No judgment here.
Okay, great. So where should we start? Maybe with some of those behavioral changes, the shifts in routine that seem to pop up a lot.
Yeah, that's a common one. We're talking about significant changes in their schedule that don't really have a clear explanation.
Like suddenly working late all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or new business trips that just appear out of nowhere. Or maybe just going out more often and being a bit vague about it.
Yeah, vague is a good word.
It often points towards, compartmentalizing life, creating this separate world,
A separate world.
And that can kind of start to erode the shared life you have.
Yeah.
Inside investigations also mentioned, more work hours or new hobbies being used as reasons to be away more.
Convenient reasons sometimes.
Potentially, yes.
And it's not just where they are, but also how they present themselves, right? Several sources mention focusing more on appearance.
Oh, yeah. New clothes, suddenly hitting the gym all the time, changing their grooming habits.
Now, obviously, people can just decide to, take better care of themselves.
Of course.
But the sources seem to highlight when it's sudden and maybe feels like it's directed elsewhere, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. The timing and maybe the lack of a clear reason for the change, that's key, like Prevention pointed out.
Right.
If someone suddenly gets really into fashion and expensive clothes, but they weren't before, and they can't really say why, it's just, a detail to note.
Especially alongside other things, Insight Investigations also listed that, didn't they? Sudden interest in grooming.
They did. Which ties into that secrecy element, too. Becoming more guarded about their schedule, their activities.
Yeah, dodging questions.
Or getting defensive when you ask something simple about their day.
That defensive feels like a big one. It just builds distance, doesn't it? Erodes trust.
It really does. BetterHelp talks about partners becoming increasingly vague. Not just about big things, but even small stuff, like who they had lunch with.
And getting annoyed if you ask.
Exactly. And that defensiveness, Psych Central notes, can sometimes be a way to just shift the focus off themselves.
Okay, so beyond just actions, what about emotional shifts? That came up a lot too. Mood swings, irritability, feeling disconnected.
Yeah, definitely. Psych Central links those moods sometimes to the internal stress, maybe guilt that can come with infidelity.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
The person might be struggling internally, so they're more on edge, or just less emotionally present with you. BetterHelp also flags that emotional distance early on.
And that distance can show up in intimacy too, right? Less interest, maybe.
Often, yes. A decrease in libido is frequently mentioned. If needs are being met elsewhere, that can happen.
But interestingly, some sources said it could actually increase.
Yeah, that sounds counterintuitive, but Prevention had experts explain it.
How so?
Well, it could be guilt, like overcompensating, or trying to keep things feeling normal at home.
Oh, okay.
Or sometimes increased activity outside the relationship just leads to a higher drive overall. But, as BetterHelp rightly says, libido changes happen for tons of reasons.
So context is key.
Always. Inside investigations also mention both a decrease in suddenly trying new things in bed as potential signs.
Another subtle one from Psych Central was about language like, they stop saying we or us about the future.
That's a really subtle but potentially powerful one.
Yeah.
Prevention noted it too. If future plans, long-term stuff, just kind of disappears from how they talk about the relationship, it suggests they might be emotionally pulling back from that shared future.
Like they don't see it anymore.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, so what about communication breakdowns? Just talking less?
Big theme, yeah. Stopping or really cutting back on sharing about their day or showing less interest in yours.
Those little check-ins just vanish.
Exactly. Prevention points out that usually couples share those details. When that stops, maybe because their focus is elsewhere, you just get less information. Inside investigations called it becoming more distant with less physical contact, too.
And if you try to talk about these changes, how they react is important. That defensiveness again.
Huge. Psych Central, Prevention, they both flag that sudden defensiveness.
It signals they're not willing to be open.
Pretty much. A couples therapist in Prevention said, basically, someone with nothing to hide is usually more likely to listen, to validate your feelings, not just shut you down.
And linked to that is when their stories just don't add up. Inconsistencies.
Yes. Leslie Doors, quoted in Prevention, put it well. The truth is easy, but lies are hard to keep straight.
Huh. Yeah, that rings true.
Those little inconsistencies might seem small at first, but they can pile up. It's hard work keeping multiple fake stories straight.
And then there's stonewalling. Just refusing to engage, changing the subject, storming off.
Or even accusing you of something to deflect. Psych Central mentioned this shift in communication patterns.
It just shuts down any chance of resolving anything.
Totally destructive. It basically makes it impossible to address your concerns.
Psych Central also had an interesting, more subtle point about voice pitch, potentially getting lower when deceiving.
Yeah, they cited some research suggesting that certain vocal cues, like a lower pitch, might sometimes be linked to deception.
Wow, not something you normally think about.
Definitely not definitive on its own, but maybe another small piece in the puzzle if other things are happening.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Technology. This feels like a massive area now.
Oh, absolutely massive. All the sources hit on this. Increased secretive tech use.
Like texting at weird hours.
Yeah, or being vague about who they're messaging. BetterHelp mentions that. And also finding secret secondary devices.
Yeah.
Inside investigations listed being more secretive with phone and social media, and even having two phones.
Two phones, wow.
Happens.
And being super protective of their devices. Phone, laptop.
Not leaving them lying around.
Yeah.
Suddenly changing passwords. Prevention made a good point.
Yeah.
Often in committed relationships, you might know your partner's password. So if that suddenly changes...
It raises an eyebrow.
Exactly. Getting angry if you ask to use their phone, keeping it hidden, it suggests there's something on there they don't want you to see. Inside investigations also flag change passwords and just spending way more time on the phone.
What about social media? That came up too. Following weird accounts, liking suggestive stuff.
Yeah, Prevention discussed this. It's a bit subjective, maybe, but it can represent an emotional connection forming, or it could be a step towards other interactions.
And if you raise concerns about it and they just brush it off.
That dismissal itself is worrying, as Prevention noted. That lack of respect for your feelings is a red flag in itself, regardless of the actual activity.
Other tech things. Phone, always on silent. Notifications hidden.
Yep. Insight investigations mention both. Also, empty message folders, constantly cleared browser history.
Trying to cover tracks.
Pretty much. And fiddling with location services, turning them on and off frequently. Insight mentioned faking GPS locations is even a thing now.
Good grief. Okay, what about money? Financial signs?
Also relevant. Increased spending you can't explain, secret purchases.
Unexplained cash withdrawals.
Yeah, or sudden debt, trouble managing money. Psych Central and Prevention both mention these.
Why would that happen?
Well, infidelity can cost money. Dates, gifts, travel maybe. It adds up. Prevention suggested looking at things like Venmo or bank statements sometimes reveals clues. Insight also listed having less money than usual or hiding statements.
Okay. Shifting to, dynamics between the couple. One that really jumped out was them accusing you of cheating.
Projection. Classic tactic. Psych Central and BetterHelp both highlighted this.
It's to deflect, right?
Exactly. Turn the tables, make you the suspicious one, create a smokescreen. Prevention added it can make you feel less able to voice your own concerns.
Sneaky. What about their friends acting weird around you? Psych Central mentioned that.
Yeah, that's an unsettling one. Prevention pointed out friends often find out first.
Awkward.
Very. They might know something and feel uncomfortable interacting with you normally.
Another one was a sudden increase in gift giving. Prevention mentioned that. Seems counterintuitive again.
Like the intimacy thing, it can be overcompensation, guilt relief, or trying to smooth things over, maybe dismiss suspicions before they start.
So not just regular affection, but out of the blue, excessive gifts.
Potentially, yeah, if it feels out of character or disproportionate.
And then the opposite, becoming unusually critical of you. That sounds painful.
It is. Prevention explained it as cognitive dissonance.
Meaning?
They try to rationalize their own behavior by finding fault with you. It reduces their internal conflict if they can tell themselves, well, the relationship partner is the problem, so...
Ugh. Shifting blame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Avoids taking responsibility. Creates a narrative where they feel justified, looking elsewhere.
And one more interpersonal one, suddenly being really interested in your schedule, where you'll be and when.
Right. Prevention suggested two possible motives there.
Which are?
Either to figure out when they have opportunities to, conduct the affair,
Okay.
or simply to know when you won't be somewhere so they don't get caught.
Strategic management, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
Like-
Less about genuine interest, potentially more about logistics.
Wow. Okay, and finally, there's just the gut feeling, intuition. All the sources seem to acknowledge that's real.
Absolutely. Prevention put it well. Our intuition picks up on subtle stuff we might not even consciously clock. Inconsistencies, vibes.
If something just feels wrong, even without proof.
It's worth paying attention to that feeling. Don't ignore it.
Okay. So that's a lot of potential signs we've covered, drawn from all these sources. But circling back to what we said at the start, these are indicators, not proof.
Crucially important to remember that.
So what do the sources suggest people do if they're noticing some of these patterns? What are the important next steps?
Well, the biggest thing, stressed by everyone, is that there can be other explanations.
Right. Like what?
Miscommunication in the relationship, unmet needs or expectations, personal struggles. The partner's going through stress, depression, anxiety that have nothing to do with infidelity.
So don't jump to conclusions.
Definitely not. Avoid assuming the worst based only on these signs.
And the key seems to be talking, open communication.
Absolutely. That's the foundation, according to all the experts. Finding a way to talk about your feelings and observations in a safe, non-blaming way.
Easier said than done sometimes.
For sure. BetterHelp suggests finding a calm, private time. Give your partner a chance to explain, and you need to be able to state your concerns honestly. Prevention adds that in a healthy relationship, your partner should be willing to listen and address your fears.
And how they react when you do bring it up is telling, too.
Very revealing. Defensiveness, blame shifting, or gaslighting,
Yeah.
trying to make you feel crazy for even asking.
Yeah, gaslighting is awful.
Those are major red flags noted by multiple sources. Prevention says those reactions suggest they're unwilling to be truthful or accountable. BetterHelp warns about partners who treat simple questions like attacks.
Okay. And if infidelity is suspected or maybe even confirmed, what then?
The sources really emphasize giving yourself time and space to process the emotions. All of them. Don't suppress it.
It's a huge breach of trust.
Massive. Acknowledging your hurt, anger, confusion, whatever you feel. Psych Central advises just letting yourself feel it all. There's no right way to react.
And seeking help is recommended. Professional help.
Strongly. Across the board, Psych Central, prevention, BetterHelp. Therapy either just for you or for you as a couple.
What can therapy do?
It offers a neutral space.
Yeah.
Helps you understand your feelings, get clarity, develop coping skills, and, importantly, figure out the future of the relationship, whatever that might be. BetterHelp mentions couples counseling can actually lead to positive outcomes, even stronger relationships for some who decide to rebuild.
And one really critical point from BetterHelp. It's not your fault.
Absolutely vital. Infidelity is never the betrayed partner's fault. It's easy to blame yourself, question what you did wrong,
Yeah, I can see that.
but it's a conscious choice made by the person who cheats. It's about their actions, the breach of trust, not a reflection of your worth.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, we've looked at a whole range of potential signs based on these expert sources. It's definitely heavy stuff.
It is.
And again, the idea is awareness, maybe empowerment, but definitely not jumping to conclusions or making accusations without real reason.
Exactly. If concerns are there, the best path is usually open, honest communication first, calmly.
And seeking support if you need it. Partner, therapist.
Right. Trust and transparency are built on that willingness to talk and listen.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening, thinking about all these potential signs. What feels most important to you when it comes to trust and transparency in your own relationship?
Good question.
Just something to reflect on, maybe connect back to your own values and experiences in partnership.